Hello, my precious friends. I really hope that you are doing great. Welcome to our second lesson on solving algebraic expressions. So our fourth example, remember we covered examples 1, 2, and 3 in our first lesson. So in our second lesson, we are going to cover example 4 and example 5. So our first question reads that, simplify the expression 16m squared minus 9n squared divided by 4m squared minus mn minus 3n squared. So these are past cases equation done in the year 2013, paper 1, question number 4. So let's start by handling the numerator. So the numerator, for the numerator, we are given 16m squared minus 9n squared. So if you look at this numerator clearly, you can see that there is a way in which we can make it to be a difference of two squares. So we can achieve that because 16 can be written as 4 power 2, then 9 can be written as 3 to the power of 2. So this is the same as saying 4 squared, then m squared, minus 9 is the same as 3 squared, then n squared. So this can be written as 4m squared, because both terms are squared, so I can simply factor out the square, then minus 3n, then I also factor out the square. So you can see clearly this is a difference of two squares. So we'll use the property which deals with the difference of two squares, which states that whenever you have x squared minus y squared, this is the same as saying x plus y multiplied by x minus y. So this is the property that I'm going to use to simplify my numerator. So if I apply this property, I want to write it in terms of x plus y, then x minus y. So this particular term will simply become 4m, then plus 3n, then multiplied by 4m, then minus 3n. So that is the simplification of my numerator. Then I'll move to the denominator. So denominator I'm given. So let's move to the denominator. So for the denominator, I'm given the expression 4m squared minus mn minus 3n squared. So if you look at this particular equation, clearly it is a quadratic equation, only that some terms has not been arranged properly. So if I pick m to be my variable, then let me rewrite this middle term so that I start with n, so that the m comes at the end. So this can be rewritten as 4m squared minus, I can start with n, so this can be written as nm, then minus 3n squared. So I'm doing this so that I achieve the format of a quadratic equation. So the format is usually ax squared plus bx then plus c. So remember, I'm picking m to be my variable, so that means that any term that does not have the variable m, it is a constant. For example, negative 3n squared in this case is a constant because it is lacking my variable m. So clearly the value of a will be 4, the value of b will be the negative of n, then the value of c will be negative of 3n squared. So these are constant because it does not have the variable m, which I'm considering to be my variable, or like the x in this particular case. So we'll just solve it the way we usually solve other quadratic equations, but we just need to factorize. So I need to have the product, then I also need to have the sum. So the product, we usually take the value of a multiplied by the value of c. In this case, the value of a clearly is 4, then the value of c is negative 3n squared. Therefore, my product will be, if you take 4 multiplied by negative 3, you'll simply obtain negative 12. Then of course we have n squared. Then I'll move to my sum. So the sum is usually the value of b. So clearly from my equation, the value of b is the negative of n. So I need to find two numbers. When I multiply, I get negative n squared. When I add or subtract, I get the negative of n. Therefore, to find those numbers, we simply check the factors of the product. So let me assume the negative. Let me look at the factors of 12. So the first factor, of course, is 2. So 2 into 12, 6 times. Then 2 into 6, 3 times. Then, of course, 3 into 3, 1 time. So I need these factors to be in such a way that when I add or subtract the two factors, I'm supposed to get a negative 1. Remember, we simply check the coefficient of this variable n. So when you have negative n, it's just the same as saying the negative of 1 multiplied by n, because negative 1 times n, you just obtain negative n. So I need my sum to be the coefficient of n, that is the sum to be negative 1, and the product to be negative 12n squared. So of course, from these particular factors, if I combine 2 and 2, I'll obtain 4. Then of course, here I have 3. So we know that if you take 4 and 3, if you subtract the 2, you'll actually obtain 1. So I need my sum to be 1. Therefore, then because the sum is a negative, that is negative 1, the only way that you can get a negative on this particular sum is by putting the negative on the larger number, because the final answer usually takes the sign of the larger number. So between 4 and 3, the larger number, of course, is 4. Then also the value has an n. Then when you multiply, you get n squared. So that means I'll introduce an n here. I also introduce an n on the 3, so that when you take negative 4 times 3, you'll obtain negative 12. Then n times n, you'll obtain n squared. Then if you take negative 4n plus 3n, you'll obtain the negative 1n, which is just the same as the negative of n. So I want to substitute. So my numbers are negative 4n, comma, the other number is the positive of 3n. So these are the numbers that I'll substitute in the position having b. So I'll simply pick the value of a. So I'll simply pick the first term. So the first term, of course, is 4m squared. Then with the second term, I'll simply substitute the value of b. Whenever I have b, I'm just going to substitute with negative 4n plus 3. Remember, negative 4n plus 3 is just the same as the negative of n. So what we are doing, we are simply expressing the negative of n in two different ways, or using two values, because if you take negative 4n plus n, you'll just obtain negative n. So I'm going to substitute this one in the region having b. Of course, my b in this case was negative n. So I'll have, so every term that I write, I'll have to multiply by the m, because the m has to multiply the value of b. So this will be, I'll take negative 4n, but the number that is multiplying with b was m. So I add an m here, just like for the other questions whereby you are adding the value of x. Then I also pick the second value, which is 3n. So because they are substituting the region of b, I'll simply multiply by m, which is the number actually coming after that. So I'll add an m. Then, of course, the value of c, you just pick it the way it is. So the value of c was negative 3n squared, the negative of 3n squared. So the key thing here is to note that whenever you take the negative of 4n, you have to multiply with the terms that are coming outside that value of b. Then the first term, you pick it the way it is, the second term the way it is. So the key point is when you are breaking down this particular value of n, always remember to multiply by m on the first term, that is the 4n, you multiply by m, then 3n, you also multiply by m, or whichever number that is in the position of x. You have to multiply it with the factors that you have gotten. So from here, I can simply check the common factors. So let me look at the first two terms. So the common values, we have 4. Then, of course, m is also common. So I'm going to factor out 4m because it is common for the first two terms. So 4m squared divided by 4m, of course, 4 and 4 will cancel. M will cancel with one of the m, so that I remain with 1m. Then 4m divided by negative 4nm. So of course, in that case, 4 will cancel out with 4. Then m will cancel with m, so I'll remain with the negative of n. So this will be minus n. Then I also check the common factors, but it should be in such a way that whatever I get in the bracket must be similar to m minus n. So 1, you can see 3 is common for both terms. Then so I'll pick a positive 3. then of course n is also common, so I'll pick positive 3n. So I'm picking the positive because I need a negative in between so that I get a negative. So this will be 3nm, so divided by 3n, so the 3n and 3n will cancel so that I remain with m, then minus 3 and 3 will cancel, n will cancel with one n, so that I remain with n alone. So because these and these are exactly the same, I simply combine the 4m plus the 3n. Then because these ones are similar, I just pick one of them. So m minus n, m minus n. So this is my denominator. So once you have both the numerator and the denominator, you simply combine the whole equation. So the whole equation was, I simply take the numerator, divide it by the denominator. So the simplification of the numerator, I got it as 4m plus 3n, then multiplied by 4m minus 3n. Then divided by the simplification of the denominator was actually 4m plus 3n. So 4m plus 3n multiplied by m minus n. So I multiply by m minus n. Then we check if there are any factors that can cancel out. You can see 4m plus 3n. We also have 4m plus 3n on the numerator. So these and these will actually cancel out. So the final answer would remain to be, so on the numerator, I still have 4m minus 3n. Then divided by, on the denominator, I have m minus n. So these terms cannot be simplified beyond this particular level. Therefore, this will be the final answer. That is the simplification of the given expression. Then we look at our example 5, so which reads that simplify the expression 12x squared plus ax minus 6a squared divided by 9x squared minus 4a squared. So remember, the difference between an expression and an equation is that an equation usually has an equal sign, but an expression does not have an equal sign. So for example, this is an expression and not an equation because it doesn't have any equal sign. So this is a past case equation done in 2009, paper 1, question number 8. So let's start by handling the numerator. So for the numerator, we are given 12x squared, then plus ax, then minus 6a squared. Again, clearly, this is a quadratic equation. So if I pick x to be my variable, then the term that does not have x will be treated as a constant. For example, 6a squared in this case will be a constant. That is, if I treat x as my variable. Remember, another person can choose to pick a to be the variable. So in that case, the term that does not have the a, which is 12x squared, will become the constant. But the answers will be exactly the same. So let me choose x to be my variable. So this is a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx then plus c. So clearly the value of a will be 12, the value of b will be a, then the value of c will be negative 6a squared. So these are quadratic, so I need to find the product and of course the sum. So the product is the value of ac, so my a from the question is 12, then the value of c is negative 6a squared. So remember, c is usually a constant. You can see this one is a constant because it does not have the variable x. So if you take 12 multiplied by negative 6, if I take 12 times negative 6, you'll obtain negative 72. So this will be negative 72. I'll obtain negative 72. Then it has an a squared. So negative 72a squared. Then the sum is usually the value of b, which in this case is equal to, you can see b is in the same position with a. So my value of b is a. So I want two numbers. When I multiply, I get negative 72a squared. When I add, I get the positive a. So to find the number, we simply check the factors of 72. So I ignore the negative first. So let me just look at the factors of 72. So the smaller factor, of course, is 2. 2 into 72 goes there 36 times. 2 into 36, 18. 2 into 18, 9. Then of course 3 into 9, 3. Then 3 into 1, 3 times. So I want to combine these factors in such a way that when I add them, I need to get 1, because remember A is just the same as saying 1A. So you check with the coefficient of the A. So the only way that I can obtain that is if I pick 2 by 2, that is 4 by 2, this is 8. So then 3 by 3, that is 9. So I want to combine it, so this is 9, then this 3 will give me 8. So you can see 8 minus 9, you'll actually, that is the difference between 8 and 9 will actually be 1. So those are the desired numbers. Then if you take 8 times 9, you get the 72. But the addition is positive. So the only way that you can get a positive on the addition part is if the larger number is positive, because when it comes to summation, the final answer of the summation usually takes the sign of the larger number. So between 8 and 9, 9 is the larger number, so 9 needs to be positive, but I have a negative 72 on the product, so I need a negative on 8, so that when I multiply, I get negative 72. When I add, I get a positive 1. Then of course I need an A, so I'll add A here and also A here, so that if I take negative 8A times 9A, negative 8 times 9, I get negative 72. A times A, I get A squared. Then negative 8A plus 9A, I'll obtain positive A. So the numbers are negative 8A, 9A. So those are the numbers that will substitute the value of B. So from there, you simply rewrite the equation, but where you have the value of B, you substitute with your values, substituting the number that is in the same position as X. So the first term is 12x squared. Then the second position, which has the value of B, so I substitute the value of B. So the value of B is negative 8A. But whenever you take the 8A, you have to multiply with the X. That is the term that is in the same position with X, of which in this case is X. So you add an X here. Then you come to the second term, which is positive 9A. Again, because it is substituting B, you also multiply it by X. Then, of course, the value of C, you just pick it the way it is, negative 6A squared. So minus 6A squared. So once you have that, you check the common factors on the first two terms and the common factors on the second two terms. So the number that can go through 12 and 4, that is 12 and 8, of course, is 4. So I'll pick 4. Then both terms have X. I'll also pick 4X. So 4 into 12 goes there 3 times. X divided by X, divided by X squared, you'll obtain X. Then minus 4 into negative 8, you'll obtain, that is negative 2. Then X and X will cancel, so that you remain with A. You remain with A. Then I also need the common factors between 9 and 6. Of course, the common factor is 3. So I'll pick a positive 3. So I'm picking the positive because I have a negative here. I also have a negative within the bracket. Then the common term here again is A, because this one has A squared and this one has A. So I'll pick negative 3A into, so 9A divided by 9AX divided by 3A. The 3 will go into 9 3 times, A and A will cancel out. Then I remain with X. Then minus 3 into negative 6, it goes there negative 2. Then A into A squared, it just goes there A times. Then once I have similar values here, I'll pick the 4x. I'll pick the 4x, then plus 3a. That is, you combine the numbers outside the bracket. Then the ones that are within the bracket, you just pick one of them because they are the same anyway. So this will be 3x minus 2a. 3x minus 2a. So that is the simplification of the numerator. Then I move to the denominator. So on the denominator, I'm given 9x squared minus 4a squared. So let me just rewrite it. 9x squared minus 4a squared. So if you look at these values, they can be taken into a difference of 2 squares. So 9 can be written as 3 squared, then x squared of course is x squared. 4 can be written as 2 squared, then a squared can be written as, of course, a squared. So this is the same as saying 3x, I simply factor out the square, minus 2a, I also factor out the square. Now this is clearly a difference of two squares. So we said whenever you have x squared minus y squared, it's the same as saying x plus y multiplied by x minus y. So I want to apply this property to simplify this one here. So this will be, so the 3x, of course, squared minus 2a squared will simplify into 3x plus 2a, then multiplied by 3x minus 2a. So I'm simply applying this property here, the difference of two squares. So this is the simplification of the denominator. Then from there, of course, I combine the two. So the whole sum, will simply become, I take the numerator divided by the denominator. So the simplification of the numerator was 4x. So I have 4x plus 3a into bracket, then multiplied by 3x minus 2a, divided by the denominator. The simplification of the denominator was 3a plus 2a into 3x minus 2a. So the denominator is 3x plus 2a, then multiplied by 3x minus 2a. Then of course from there you look for similar factors. So you can see we have 3x minus 2a and 3x minus 2a. So these ones will simply cancel out. So the final answer would remain to be, on the numerator I have 4x plus 3a, then divided by, on the denominator I have 3x plus 2a. So there is no any other common factors within those two. Therefore this remains to be the final answer. Thank you very much for accompanying me until the end of this particular lesson. I do not take it for granted. In case you are new to the channel, kindly hit the subscription button and also turn on the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll get notified. So expect more examples on this particular chapter in our next videos. Thank you very much. This is Kind Tuition Academy.